If you're thinking about getting into the trucking industry, this is the video that you need to watch because I'm going to be breaking down exactly my personal experience with being in the trucking industry and some common pitfalls that you guys should avoid so you guys can be able to be successful in the trucking industry. Definitely a couple of things you guys need to know, but I'm going to break it down for you guys, show you guys my personal experience with the trucking industry and how you guys can avoid some common pitfalls that often leaves a lot of people broke whenever they get into the trucking industry. Let's get it, let's go. They can definitely make you a lot of money in the trucking industry, but there's often some things that people don't know coming into the industry. So I'm gonna actually break down my personal experience on how I got a truck and I actually sold it. So stick around to the end of this video because you do not want to miss the ending. So I was coming out of college, right? And I actually studied pre-med. I was supposed to go into medical school, but didn't go because I wanted to pursue business. So I basically had a clothing business that was pretty successful, I would say. It paid off my tuition at least when I was going to out-of-state college. So after graduating college, I was like, bro, how can I run up some money, bro? Like, I need to run up some money. And I wasn't trying to work a job at all. So what I did, right, I was already onto credit. I got a mentor in college. I already got like pretty hip on credit. And so what I had my uncle do was put me on one of his old credit cards that had a pretty high limit, right? It was probably upwards of $20,000, right? So basically I asked him, I was like, man, can you like go ahead and put me on this card? I don't even want the card. I just want the history because I'm about to go buy a truck. And so at the time I was researching a lot. I was like watching so many different like podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever, like just trying to figure out my next step, my next move in business. I was listening to this one dude, he said that he was doing trucking. And so I was like, trucking? Okay, cool. Like I never really thought about it, but I was like, America needs trucks, you know what I mean? Because like if you have all the grocery stores, that's literally how they get all of their products, and America is literally built off of trucking, right? So I was like, okay, it might not be a bad business to go in, maybe it's recession proof and all that. I was like, I started researching. I'm a person where if I like lock in on something, if I want something in my mind, I gotta get it. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts, like I gotta do it. So basically with that being said, I set my mind on getting a truck, like a semi truck, like not the box trucks, which are, I mean, they still make good money, so, but the semi trucks are the big boys, and they actually are the ones that are gonna be able to go a lot further and also carry more weight, so they have more money that's usually assigned to them. So basically, I'm getting into the trucking industry. Since I had some really good success with my clothing company, I really thought that everything that I do would turn into gold. So basically, I didn't do as much research as I should have. I just really thought it was a good business model, and so I'm a person where I'm so optimistic that I feel like I can make anything happen, and which I can, but sometimes things don't work out, so it is what it is. But for the most part, right, so I got everything on board. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a loan and all that. I actually went ahead and got it with my dad just so we could partner up and actually run the business together. And so when we got the truck, right, we actually got a 2017 Volvo 760. It was actually really good miles. Like if you guys know trucks, it was around 80,000 miles. So it was really good for that year, especially as far as how I was running and all that. And the interest rate that we got was actually pretty good. It was pretty decent for a first time lender, and we actually did it under the business. And so with that being said, we got less than a 10% loan. We got really great semi trucks. If you guys know anything about trucks, you guys know that Volvo is a pretty premier one. They're pretty sturdy. And so you got Freightliners, and then Volvos are a little bit better. So we got the truck, we were super happy, and I wasn't planning on driving it, nor was my dad planning on driving it. So as far as having a CDL, none of us had a CDL. So we actually had to find somebody who had a CDL, which could be a driver, and now you have to basically trust somebody. Most of the times you don't really know. The thing about a trucking industry, man, is that once you get a driver right, like the driver's gonna be like a great driver, like he's gonna be the most polite driver, and he's gonna be very respectful if he's around you. Now, what you have to realize is that truck is gonna be on the road. And most of the time, it's gonna be across the country, man. So that driver might be the greatest driver in the planet whenever he's around you, but it really doesn't matter until he hits that road, and then you'll be able to see exactly what type of driver he is. So that already kind of threw me off because I'm a person where I'm super organized, and like the last thing, man, the last thing I want to do is rely on somebody else to make my money. And so I know like organizations, employees, but if you have my whole asset in your hands as far as the truck and you're driving it, it just made me a little skeptic, right? So basically the first hard part and hurdle that anybody that's getting into the trucking industry should know is that you must have a reliable driver that you can trust on and that you know can be able to take care of the truck just like it's your own. Because let's face it, guys, we all know if you've rented out cars on Turo or even have a car rental, people don't take care of your cars like you do. It's just a simple matter of fact. So what you ideally want is somebody who would treat your stuff just like it's theirs. And that's just kind of how I was raised. So I'm always thinking people are like that, but unfortunately, that's not how the world works. So finding a driver is super hard. So you have to keep in mind that if you don't have a driver right, the truck's not on the road and the truck's parked, that insurance, that monthly payment for that truck is still going to be coming along. So you have to also calculate for that. And that's exactly why I always recommend you guys guys have extra capital set aside, especially if you guys are going into business. Bro, you don't know how many times things can fail in business. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're not gonna set your eyes on the failure, but that's just the cost of doing business. Things go wrong, mess ups happen, and that's kind of how business goes. So you always have to be prepared and always kind of playing chess, not checkers. So by having that extra capital set aside, we're at least able to squeeze through a couple of months. I mean, so having that capital set aside, we weren't really rushed at all. I mean, I was definitely stressed because I'm like, I'm trying to make some money for sure, but at the end of the day, like, what can you do? So really what I was doing is sending out so many job applications, trying to figure that out. And then the next hurdle came along. So if you have a truck, right, you can't just simply go ahead and find a driver and let the driver go ahead and pick up some loads from Amazon. Like, it has to be under a carrier. So you have to be able to actually find a carrier who's reputable, who's trustworthy, and can be able to actually get your truck on the road and also have your truck be negotiated with the best possible rates. And so what happens with the trucking, they actually have distribution centers where they're actually contracted by certain companies such as Amazon, Walmart, and also FedEx to be able to deliver a lot of their packages. So what happens is that these brokers will often reach out to a lot of carriers to be able to get these loads on the road. Now, how it works is that each carrier usually has a rating based off of the load board, which is somebody who's usually calling the broker, trying to negotiate a rate so they can be able to get that load for their driver and to be on the road. Now, with the dispatcher, they really have to do a lot of logistics as far as being able to figure out where the loads are coming from and having a load for them to come back to. So it's a lot of things in play, and so making sure that you guys find a reputable carrier that actually knows what they're talking about. And let's face it, guys, like, if you have a carrier, for example, so I actually go to carriers that have what they call owner operators. So owner operator carriers are carriers that are basically, like, I would say it's almost like a real estate brokerage, right? Where you have the brokerage and then you have the agents. The agents kind of work independently of the brokerage. So carriers that usually have a lot of owner operators, they usually just basically take a certain commission or percentage based off of the loads that the truck driver actually gets. And so it's not actually their trucks, they just actually take a commission by being able to give them the kind of shield that they need to be able to be on the road and be protected, right? So that's exactly what I would do, because if you go to any other carrier and they have their own trucks that they're trying to run, let's just face it, guys, it's business. Do you think that they will go ahead and actually prioritize your truck over their truck if a good load comes along? You tell me. So the answer is definitely a big no, because let's face it, they want their trucks on the road more than they want yours. But they like yours because they give them the opportunity to be able to have more trucks and also have more load options so they can actually be able to push their brand. So those are some key hurdles that you guys are going to encounter. And so if you guys are thinking about getting to the truck industry, making sure you guys have all your ducks in a row as far as figuring out a driver, knowing which carrier you guys are going to operate with, and also knowing your exit strategy or where you guys want to be able to move forward. Because at the end of the day, how you guys can look at this, right, is that the trucking industry might be passive income, but it's not technically passive income, right? You have to think about it. That truck is usually gone a lot of times, and it's gone throughout the week, right? Ideally, you want that truck gone a lot, and you want that truck moving from Monday all the way to Friday, sometimes even to Saturday. So they can be able to run up anywhere from 3 to like 10,000 miles that same week, right? And so having that truck running those many miles, right? And especially too, these trucks don't just go to one spot and they're back. They go to all over the country. So there's going to be a lot of wear and tear on the truck. So making sure that you guys know how to be able to actually get cheap parts and knowing what parts to actually diagnose and check for whenever you guys get your truck back is super important. The trucking industry, it sounds sexy, it sounds cool and all that, but I've actually known a lot of people who lost a lot of money in the trucking industry. So definitely things to take into consideration, right, is that if you guys are having a truck, for example, so that truck's actually going to be on the road for 3 to 10,000 miles a week. So you have to really calculate how much wear and tear that is actually going to have on your actual truck. So if you have a very expensive truck, such as a Peterbilt or even a Volvo, right, then it can really add up as far as the wear and tear model. So a lot of times the trucking industry seems very sexy. However, the trucking industry is super high risk because 80% of all trucking businesses actually fail within the first year. And so with that being said, it's very risky because of the fact there's a large upfront capital, there's a lot of wear and tear items, And you're also, if you guys aren't a CDL driver, you're mostly relying on another driver to be able to actually handle all of your assets and also be able to make most of your money. So if that driver is tired or if that driver wants to stop a lot, then it's going to definitely shorten your money. And so that's exactly why I went with the trucking industry. It was a great experience, don't get me wrong, for sure. Now, I don't mean to knock anybody in the trucking industry. There's a lot of people that have actually been able to make a lot of really great money in the trucking industry, so I don't want to discredit that, but it's definitely not for me, right? I don't like businesses that require a large upfront investment without having a fast return back. And two, I don't like any business or just business in general to have to rely on anybody else to make me my money. I have no ceiling to the amount of money that I can make. Having somebody in a truck that, even if I knew, right, nobody's ever gonna grind as hard as you are for your own stuff. So that's why, like, even having a driver didn't make sense to me. Now, third reason I would say is that, especially if you're trying to just get into the trucking industry, make some money, and you're not trying to be a full-on trucking business, then you're gonna have to rely on a carrier. And let's face it, those carriers are literally gonna tell you guys everything you guys wanna hear to be able to get your truck running. However, it just helps them in the long run, especially if they're not a carrier that has a lot of owner-operators. They really don't have as much of an incentive to go ahead and run your truck compared to them. The trucking industry is definitely not for me, brother. So what I actually ended up doing was that I actually had a contact with one of the carriers, and so they actually wanted to buy my truck, and so they actually bought my truck, and I made some profit, made some good profit actually off of the truck, and I was able to actually pay off the loan while also getting really good profit. So it kind of worked out in my favor. Now, this was around the pandemic, right? So like, it was around 2021. So the trucking industry was at a really great high at that point because, of course, a lot of people needed to be able to get a lot of different deliveries. The trucking industry was at a really high boom. That really caused the market to increase, but shortly after, the market really flatlined, and now the trucking industry is pretty much ups and downs. So you'll have like your peak season, which is from August all the way to like November, but for the most part, the rest of the year is just kind of up and down. So that's my advice, man. If you guys are gonna be able to get some capital, I would definitely invest in businesses that don't require as much capital. If I'm gonna start a business, if I had to do it again, especially coming out of college, I'd only start a business with maximum $5,000, and I would actually go ahead and start doing pre-sale offers before I even get any type of inventory or even try to sell any type of products. I actually like businesses that I can sell my knowledge, I can sell products that I can be able to make one time and actually get paid for multiple times, such as digital products. But that's the way for that's how you can be able to actually replace that equation from time equals money. And this is actually a really good way to be able to leverage your time, because you're actually leveraging your time a lot because you're putting in a good amount of time so you can be able to have a product that you can actually sell forever. So I hope this video is helpful, man. I just wanted to share my experience and also my failures too, man. I feel like a lot of people show you guys the good, but some people don't show you the bad. So definitely, if you guys get into investments, especially if you get funded, definitely make sure you guys know what you're doing, and definitely make sure you guys are doing your research and due diligence. But yes, sir, my name's Boo. I'm out. Hardest YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe and tap the bell notifications below to get updated on all the latest videos, and share this with at least 5 of your friends so you guys can grow and share together along your journey. Let's get it. Let's go. See you at the top, my boy.